The video you are about to watch is from an old woodworking magazine that I published during the years of 2003 to approximately 2006. This was a very unique magazine. It was purely video content and it was distributed on DVDs. The magazine ran for approximately 3.5 years, and then due to financial concerns, we simply had to terminate the magazine. We moved on to other things over the last roughly 15 years. However, there has been a request to resurrect this content, so I've gone through the trouble to get the equipment, the products, everything I needed in order to bring this content back to life to share with everyone. Here on this YouTube channel, we'll be putting up approximately 100 to 120 of the original stories that appeared in that magazine. The magazine was called Woodworking at Home Magazine, and it was truly one of a kind in the world. I really hope you enjoy these videos, and please tell your friends about them.
Welcome to A Turn for the Better. I'm Dick Singh. I'll be doing this issue's project, which will be a small pocket watch with an accent inlay around the watch face. This lends itself to any size lathe and is really a fun project. To start off with, I'm going to take a piece of scrap wood and put it in my chuck. Now my insert I've taken and cut on the bandsaw and just taken and bumped it on a disc sander so I have a smooth surface. I'm going to put a piece of double-faced tape on here. Okay, I like to take a sharp tip of a skew and cut the tape just so it's not swinging around on me. Okay, we'll take the insert and I'm just going to take and lightly put it on there and check it for being concentric. A little pressure and we're all set. Okay, I'm just going to clean up the diameter. Now we do want to keep it parallel. When you do this, you want to determine what the diameter is before we take and go too far. We know we're going to have an 1 3/8" hole in there, so you definitely have to be larger than that. I'm going to probably shoot for roughly an 1 5/8". If you're using a pair of verniers, you can also sight down them and make sure that your walls are parallel, which you do want. You don't want to make a taper in it. Keep them as parallel as you can. Okay, one of the things that people have a problem with is getting double-faced tape to release. The secret is not to be forceful, but just apply pressure on it and it will come off on its own. It is actually a liquid or a semi-liquid, and by holding pressure against it, it will relax and release. Okay, the wood I'm using here is a piece of buckthorn, kind of like a crab apple. One of the neat things about turning is that you can take some of the smaller pieces and species and make things out of them that you normally would not be able to make anything from. Okay, we're just going in and clean up the diameter so I know what I have. Okay, my first step, I'm going to take and just clean up the face. This is straight off the bandsaw and I should have a little semblance of a finished surface there. Okay, we're going to take and put the inlay, recess that into the body of the watch. I like to take and use a boring method rather than drills because you're limited to what you use for drills. Okay, the tool I'm using is nothing more than a 1/4 inch square scraper. Now it has some modifications. The sides have been relieved. As you can see from the bottom, both sides and the front. If we did not do that, we would sometimes have a tendency to foul out on the bottom of the tool when we're boring in on around diameter. When you're boring, you want to go in at center line or slightly below. Check occasionally to make sure that we haven't made our hole too large. Okay, we've got it. You want to keep it where it's just a snug fit. Okay, I've got some of the medium density super glue, and I'm going to go around my wall. I want to make sure that I get a good coverage in here. Okay, now I am going to take the thin super glue and I'm going to run all around my joint line and allow that to set in there. Okay, once everything is dried, which is immediately with the accelerator, I'm just going in and clean up my pieces so I can visually see what I have. Okay, we're going to be drilling an 1 3/8 hole. Now we can't drill at a full depth because of this spur on the very tip. We're going to make a thin pocket watch, and that probably would be going through the back if we drilled a hole depth that we needed. So all we're going to do is spot most of our hole with this. Okay, I'm going to take and put my watch face in, and I don't like to have it just setting on the very surface. I like to recess it down in a little bit. So to do that, I'm going to have to take my scraper or a parting tool and make a recess for this to go down into. Now I'm just going to go a little at a time. I don't want to take and get too sure of myself here. I may change it as my design changes a little bit. Now I'm going to start shaping my bead. As you can see, I've already lost my depression, so I will go a little deeper. Okay, at this point, I think I'm going to be pretty decent. So I want to increase the depth. I'm going to have to be at least 1/4 inch deep to hold the clock body. So here we're getting rid of that nub hole in the very bottom now. Now, all I'm doing is laying the tool against the wall that I have already drilled. I don't want to change that surface any more than I have to. Looks good. Okay, I'm going to finish off my little bead here. Just going to come down and start shaping my body a little bit. If I take in sight from one rim to the other, I've got roughly 7/16 of an inch, which will tell me where my bottom is. At this point, I am going to sand the face, not the whole thing, just all my little detail here. And I'm being very careful not to sand out any of the detail that I've put in. In other words, use the paper to sand to a shoulder, but not over it. I'm using Deft satin finish straight out of the can, and I'm going to give it just a good coat and let it soak for a minute. Okay, we're ready to turn it around. Okay, I've got just a piece of scrap. I believe it's soft maple. Doesn't matter what it is. Scrap is scrap. The only thing, I want to put it down and make sure it's in the bottom of my chuck and tighten my jaws up. Okay, we're just going to take a gouge and take the corners off. Okay, we're going to have to take this down to 1 3/8. It's important that we have a flat surface on the bottom for it to set in the bottom of the watch hole. Okay, we should be pretty close. Okay, I'm just coming in and starting to get my finished shape now. Okay, I do want to take and clean up for my depth, and I have to remember the bottom of my hole is 7/16, or roughly right there. Just taking again, looking down on top of it so I can see what I really want for a form here. This is when I have to do it now. I also like to thin it out. I don't like one that's real heavy. I like a watch that's kind of delicate. I also like to put a little concave in the back. Okay, I started with 320, 400, and this is 600. I'm a firm believer that you cannot get all the sanding marks out with the lathe running. I always hand it by hand with the lathe stop, just to break up any concentric rings. Okay, I'm taking just a little V scraper, and I'm going in right at that concaved area and put just a mark in there, and just a touch of a one next to it. These little rings will give the illusion of a back that comes off, and it breaks up that big expanse. Again, I'm using just a coat of depth. Doesn't that bring out that buckthorn beautifully? Okay, this is our fob, and what I use, they're picture hangers. Normally I drill it with a 1/4-inch drill to spot it so it's nested in. Okay, one of the problems with a thin pocket watch like this is how do you put the fob where you want it? Okay, what I've done is I've made a small V block. This is a scrap block cut on a bandsaw or on a table saw just to take and get a V in it. I have put a back at 90 degrees to keep my watch face parallel. Okay, I've got a clamp on here that I use as a slide that this is, and to locate it I want to find the very bottom of the V. Okay, this allows me to take and position the watch so I can find the top dead center and drill. Okay, I'm just going to take it down a little ways. What I'm looking for was just to make a recess for the shoulder on the fob. Okay, now I'll just take and drill a smaller pilot hole for my threads. Okay, this one seated just about perfect. I don't think we could have hit it much better. As you notice, I've made this parallel with the diameter of the watch. If you have a problem with this, sometimes you start it where it's wrong and it's either too deep or too shallow. Drill out your threaded section where you can just stick it in with a little bit of epoxy and you can position it wherever you need. Okay, the one we did today, our accent ring, was done with madrone burl and buckthorn body. Here is another buckthorn body, but using cocobolo, which makes a much more striking accent. This one is olive with desert ironwood, which is almost stark. The other possibilities as you progress are detailed inlays, done all on the lathe.
I sincerely hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you truly enjoyed it, Please help us share this information with the rest of the communities. Please hit the subscribe button, give us a big thumbs up, and be sure to tell your friends about this channel. Thanks again for watching.